1. What is the violation of eating at the wrong time?
Question. During my practice days, I was in charge of cooking rice. When I took out the cold rice, I used a new pot to cook the rice. When washing the pot, I saw a few grains of rice still stuck in the pot. I was afraid it would be a sin to throw it away, so I picked it up and ate it. So I ask, have I broken the precept of eating at the wrong time?
Answer. If it is said that breaking the precept of eating is wrong, then Buddhists have committed it. According to Buddha's teachings, monastics are not allowed to eat past noon. Buddhists come to the pagoda to receive the 8 precepts. It is considered that you practice according to the monastic conduct for one day, or many days. However, it is also said in the law, the patriarchs consider that people in this world are physically weak and often get sick, so they temporarily give monks an evening meal called medicine stone. The word medicinal stone means that in the past, people used stones to grind them into needles to inject and treat diseases. From then on, in Zen, these 2 words are used to describe practitioners when eating dinner. Which is like taking medicine to treat an illness, hunger, so while eating, one must not give rise to a greedy mind. And also in the law, the patriarch reminds us that when we eat, we must feel ashamed. Thus, the patriarchs temporarily give it, but when eating it, we must feel ashamed, thinking that we have not followed the Buddha's teachings. Thus, eating a few grains of rice for Buddhists is a violation of time and time. That means Buddhists eat more after dinner, even if it's just a few grains of rice. However, Buddhists nonetheless have a fear of sin, regarding the grains of rice offered by na donors. That is commendable. But next time, if when washing the pot there are still grains of rice in the pot like that, then it would be better for Buddhists to put it in something for the birds to eat. That is also giving alms to sentient beings. That way, both are complete. 2. Can people who die after 49 days continue to pray?
Question. In a family, if a relative passes away, children and grandchildren pray for the deceased for 49 days, reciting Buddha's name every night in front of the Buddha's table. But after 49 days, can we still pray for rebirth by reciting Buddha's name?
Answer. It is very respectful for children and grandchildren to chant Buddha's name for their loved ones within 49 days. This is also what Buddhists follow in the sutras. So, it's very right and there's nothing wrong with it. However, the important thing is that while chanting, everyone must be sincere and devoted to chanting and praying. If so, the person chanting will benefit and the soul will also benefit somewhat. According to the Ksitigarbha Sutra, a person dies after 49 days, called death, then the soul of the deceased, depending on their karma, receives rebirth and retribution. If you create many good things in this life, you will be reborn in a peaceful realm. On the contrary, life is born in a state of suffering. Depending on where you create good and evil karma, you will be reborn in different species and realms within the 6 paths of reincarnation. It is also according to this teaching that Buddhists often make offerings to the Sangha on the day of death. The purpose is that thanks to the power of the monks' and nuns' prayers, called the ocean-like assembly, the incense souls will be reborn in a good place. However, if we interpret the meaning of the 2 words, requiem, it is not just for 49 days. Because praying for rebirth means wishing to overcome, from the dark and evil realm, to overcome to the good and peaceful realm. Understood in that sense. We must always pray for the requiem, pray for ourselves, and at the same time pray for everyone to always live in peace. In that sense, we must always pray for ourselves and for others to forever be free from suffering, to be happy and liberated, not just within 49 days. Therefore, after 49 days, Buddhists and family members continue to chant Buddhist scriptures, which is a very good thing. Whether praying for rebirth or not, Buddhists should chant Buddhist scriptures, so that their present life will be peaceful and their next life will also be peaceful. And after each time chanting Buddha's name like that, Buddhists should also pray for the souls of their relatives, as well as for other souls, and more broadly, for the whole Dharma realm of sentient and inanimate beings to be fulfilled. Buddhism. This is an expression of the altruistic compassion of Buddhists, which is also very nice. 3. If you do good and die unexpectedly, will you be transcended?
Question. In this life, I obey Buddha's teachings to do good and avoid evil, such as doing meritorious deeds, reciting Buddha's name, etc. But one day, I had an accident and died suddenly, like when I was swimming in the sea and was swept away by a tsunami. So, where will my consciousness go? Can I go to the Pure Land?
Answer. Talking about karma, in Buddhist scriptures, there are many types of karma. Among those types of karma, there are two types of karma that Buddhists often hear about the most. That is, accumulated karma and near-death karma. Regarding accumulation of karma, accumulation means storing up and piling up, and karma is an action repeated many times into a habit. Buddhism calls it karma. Thus, in today's life, if Buddhists often create good karma, such as going to temples, chanting sutras, reciting Buddha's name, bowing to Buddha, giving alms, making offerings, etc., then these good karma become more and more numerous. It is stored in the store of alaya consciousness or store consciousness. Certainly never lost. On the contrary, creating bad karma is the same. That's called accumulating karma. What about near-death karma? Near is near, death is death, meaning karma is close to death. While about to die, good karma or bad karma arises in our mind. At that time we stop breathing. Of course we will follow the karma that we started while about to die. The karma that arises is very strong. For example, if someone makes us angry, or we remember an image too deeply, like loving or hating someone, or something, we immediately turn it off. Breathe, then the consciousness will follow this karma and be born in that state. That is following near-death bad karma. On the contrary, when we are about to die, suddenly someone recites Buddha's name to remind us of Buddha, or if we regularly recite Buddha's name every day, although at that time there was no one reciting Buddha's name, thanks to the habit of reciting Buddha's name every day, when we are about to die, someone will recite Buddha's name every day. When we die, we immediately remember Buddha, and at that moment we die, then we will definitely follow Buddha. That is good karma. Thus, if we practice good deeds every day, but when we are about to die we start bad karma, or feel regretful about something, then when we close our eyes, we must receive the bad karma according to the near-death karma. However, while receiving the retribution of near-death karma, the accumulated good and evil karma is never lost. When we pay off the near-death karma, depending on how long or short the time is, we will return to enjoy the accumulated karma that we have created in our current life. If it is good karma, then we enjoy good circumstances, like being a person with a high position in society, or extreme wealth, etc. On the contrary, the trick is to repay evil results. In short, Buddhists should not be afraid. When you are doing good in your life, cultivating many merits, and suddenly die in an accident, called sudden death, your consciousness will not know where to go. That means sooner or later, it will follow the path I chose when I was still healthy. The important thing is that while we are still healthy, we should try to cultivate many good karma, so that after closing our eyes we will be reborn in a good state. Like a falling tree, it will fall in the direction it was already leaning. The important thing is that every day, we should try to create a strong inclination for good things, then when we close our eyes we will fall in that good direction. 4. Is it a crime to pull weeds and kill small animals?
Question. When we received the 8 precepts, among the 8 precepts, the precept of not killing is at the top. However, when we work, we clean or weed the ground, we sweep away a lot of small animals, especially ants, spiders, millipedes, etc. We try to avoid them, but we can't get rid of them. So, I would like to ask, regarding the precepts and the law of cause and effect, have we committed a crime and must we pay retribution?
Answer. Based on the precept of non-killing as well as the law of cause and effect, Buddhists' actions are of course committed and must pay the consequences. However, the severity of the problem is different. If we talk about crime, then whether intentionally or unintentionally, we kill other creatures, even very small creatures like ants, insects, etc. If we kill, of course it is a crime. But one thing, we also need to understand more, the precept of killing that Buddha prohibits, mainly Buddha prohibits killing people. Because human life is the most precious of all. Then from there, gradually lowering it down, like buffaloes, cows, horses, dogs, etc. creatures that have gratitude towards us humans. Buddha taught Buddhists to extend their compassion, not to intentionally kill them. For smaller creatures, the longer we try to preserve them, the better. In the end, how many people in their life fully keep this precept of not killing living beings? To protect life, when we are sick, we take medicine, which also kills many germs in our bodies. Therefore, Buddha advises humanity to respect life, above all humanity, as long as all humanity knows how to love and respect each other's lives, not to kill each other, to preserve that much, so why worry about the world not being peaceful? But somehow humanity cannot keep this precept of not killing, so humanity always lives in suffering. Killing is a big life, but humans can't even save it, let alone other small creatures. For Buddhists, Buddha forbids us not only not to kill people, but also to love all other living things. That is showing compassion. Especially to avoid retribution and revenge, in short, through the action of killing living things by Buddhists, as in the question raised by Buddhists, in my opinion, according to the law of cause and effect, every cause, no matter how small, will have an effect. No one can avoid it. However, in that cause and effect, there are many other dependent factors of the cause while creating, so the results can be different in severity. In the case of Buddhists, it is not actually the Buddhist's own volition to seek it out to kill it. The work of Buddhists is ordered by the monks and the public, not by Buddhists who do it on their own initiative. Therefore, if there is a sin, it is a common sin, not just a Buddhist's responsibility. Second, the intention of Buddhists is to sweep the temple grounds clean. Buddhists do not intend to find them to kill, thus, they die, but that is just their karma. Is it because you are afraid that they will die, and then let the grass and trash grow overgrown and flood the entire temple yard? So you just let it be? If so, then why is there a verse that praises the cleaning of the temple grounds, often old algae, blue soil, the time when blessings and wisdom are born, although impersonal, Deek possesses the holy humanity, mean, often sweeping the temple grounds, blessings and blessings always grow, although no tourists came to visit, there were also saints passing by, thus, Buddhists should not be afraid, if there is a sin, it is a common sin, not just Buddhists. Because Buddhists do what the masses tell them to do. 5. Committing crimes is like a mountain.
Question: in the ritual of reciting the Lotus Sutra, there is a verse praising the sutra, including 2 sentences, even if you commit more sins than the mountains, don't bother with the wonderful Dharma for a few rows. I would like to ask, is it true that even if a person commits a sin as big as Mount Meru, if he only recites a few lines of the Lotus Sutra, all his sins will be eliminated?
Answer: please do not misunderstand the meaning of the verse. There is no such paradox. If that's the case, then why practice tiring? While living, feel free to commit sins. When you become seriously ill, just recite a few lines of the Lotus Sutra and you will be done, all the accumulated sins will be completely eliminated. If understood like that, the whole world would surely be in chaos. Life will become chaos, no one will fear cause and effect. The meaning of those 2 sentences, as we understand it, is as follows: this is a song praising the sutra, mainly of the Lotus Sutra, which Buddha teaches with no more than 4 words: opening, understanding, enlightening, entering. These 4 words have one main purpose, which Buddha wants to show all sentient beings to recognize and live with the pure and clear nature that each person has. In the sutras it is called Buddha's knowledge. If anyone realizes and lives completely with this pure nature and clear nature, then no matter how many sins they have, they will all disappear. The reason why? Because sin is inherently empty. In the evidence of Tao Ca, Venerable Vin Jia Huin Jiak said, verification has the appearance of no cause or dharma, the moment of destruction rejects avicii karma. Or ignorance is the true nature of Buddha nature, illusion without a body is dharmakaya. The dharma body of the willow tree of Woon Hut Vat. When you realize the true form. That is, the empty form of all dharmas, then cause and dharma will no longer exist. True form is another name for Buddha's knowledge. When you have not yet realized the true form, or have not yet realized the Buddha's knowledge, then your ego will be tested, that is, all false attachments will be enough. But once enlightened, everything disappears. Because of ignorance it has no real entity. For example, darkness does not have a fixed entity. Like in a room, pitch black at night, suddenly a light shines in. Of course that darkness is no longer there, it disappears very quickly. Even if that darkness lasts for hundreds of years, why does it disappear so quickly? Because it has no fixed entity. Thus, darkness is an example of ignorance or sin, because sin comes from the root of ignorance, and if the root does not exist, what will the tip do? Thus, the two verses above mean, when we receive the miraculous Dharma, which is another name for Buddha's knowledge, and live fully with that miraculous Dharma. There is no need to bother reciting and reading it, even if it's just a few lines, then all the sins will be gone. On the contrary, no matter how many times we recite it and go through it countless times, in the end the sin is still intact. Why is that? Because we recite purely on the basis of words and letters, or chant for blessings. That's all. We do not receive the meaning of the Buddha's teachings, chanting for years and years, looking back, the afflictions of greed, anger, and ignorance have not disappeared at all. Try reciting like that, how can you eliminate sins? If you want to end your sins, you must see the nature, magical Dharma, and live with that nature, then no sin will remain. As the sun appears and shines, all clouds and clouds disappear. The important thing is to make the sun of wisdom appear. That is the important thing. 6. Is it because the disease bothers us?
Question: every time I join the monks to practice, because my body is old and weak, I easily get sick. Every time I get sick, it causes other people to worry. So I ask, am I guilty of disturbing them? And will I lose the merit of studying?
Answer: illness is one of the four great human sufferings: birth, old age, illness, and death. This is a general rule, no one can avoid it. However, the severity of the illness depends on each person's karma, with different severity. In the case of Buddhists, there is no crime of disturbing them at all. The crime of disturbing the public is when it's time to sleep and the Buddhist refuses to lie still to sleep, or because he can't sleep, the Buddhist walks and makes noise and makes other people unable to sleep. Like that, the Buddhist guilty of disturbing them. Because during the period of study, everyone needs good health to practice according to the schedule, but Buddhists do not respect the sleeping and resting hours of others. So Buddhists are not only breaking the rules but also violating the rules. Animate them again. This is something that everyone participating in short or long-term retreats organized by the temple should pay attention to avoid these mistakes. The case of Buddhists is different. Because illness is beyond the wishes of Buddhists, furthermore, in the spirit of living together in harmony as a group, it is necessary to show the spirit of mutual support, especially when someone is sick. So the fact that other people help Buddhists is normal and very good, nothing bothers them. On the contrary, if Buddhists due to illness do not follow the schedule with the masses, then of course, Buddhists will be worse off than others. But, if while sick, lying in the room and unable to recite Buddha's name, Buddhists still try to meditate on Buddha's name, if that is the case, then there is no loss of merit. Loss of merit is when a healthy Buddhist tries to avoid the session and does not chant with the masses, that is loss of merit. Not only that, but it also carries the additional crime of using the don na donor. Because of these people, they put effort into cooking for us to eat but we don't care about cultivating, and that's the added crime of not living in harmony with others. In this case, when practicing and studying with the masses, it should not be there. In addition, Buddhists can rest assured that it is okay. No one accepts truly sick people like Buddhists. 7. Meaning of the sentence, evil love is heartless.
Question: in the prayer submission as well as in the repentance article, there is a sentence, love evil, and indifference add up to Buddhahood? Or evil love unintentionally matches the same wisdom? Please ask, what is the meaning of these two sentences?
Answer: to understand the meaning of these two sentences, first of all, we need to understand the meaning of the words, Buddhism and wisdom. Buddhism here does not mean only Buddhahood, which we can understand as pointing to the enlightened nature. The noun, wisdom, is just another name for enlightenment. Because in the sutras, there are three types of wisdom mentioned: 1. The ultimate wisdom is the wisdom of the Shravakas; 2. The wisdom of the path is the wisdom of the Bodhisattva; 3. All wisdom is Buddha's wisdom. Thus, the complete knowledge of all species is all kinds of wisdom, that is, the mind that knows all species. As for emotions, it is sufficient to say that they are sentient, which means they are only for sentient beings with distinguishable emotions. Inanimate beings are non-sentient species. But beings without sentience cannot know how to practice and become Buddhas. Therefore, if we understand the two words Buddha path as Buddhahood, then there is no way to explain the above two sentences. But if we understand the Buddha way or wisdom in the nature, then we can explain it. The reason why? Because all sentient and inanimate species share the same nature. All things are one. For example, there are thousands of waves of different sizes, but they all come from water. Although the waves are different, the water is only one. Water is the body, and waves are the form and function of water. This nature is the pure, natural nature of all things. In sentient beings, it is called Buddha nature; in inanimate beings, it is called Dharma nature. Thus, between Buddha nature and Dharma nature, the nouns are different, but the reality is not two. However, if we say one, it is not correct. Why? Because this nature, when it acts in sentient beings, typically like humans, is called wisdom, and using this wisdom to recognize the nature of all living beings, is called Dharma nature. Anyone who realizes and lives fully with that nature is called a Buddha or an enlightened one. So there are two but not two. In the sutras it is often called the Dharma door of non-duality. Because of enlightenment, one becomes a Buddha, then the Buddha is not outside the Dharma nature. In general, sentient and inanimate beings all have the same pure, clear essence, so it is the same to say that they achieve the same Buddha path or the same wisdom. 8. What is the difference between Kien Tu or and Tran Sa or?
Question: how are these three things similar and different?
Answer: these three things have similarities and also differences. They are similar in that these three things are all ignorance and afflictions, all have the effect of causing sentient beings to be forever trapped in birth and death. However, they also have differences. First of all, let's talk about the difference between views and delusions, and then talk about the difference with dust and dirt, ants or what. Views or illusions are delusions that belong to reason. They include 5 types: personal view, boundary view, wrong view, clinging to view, and clinging to precepts. As for thoughts or delusions, they belong to things. They also include 5 things: greed, anger, ignorance, arrogance, and doubt. Collectively these 10 things are called the 10 basic things of affliction. Because they are the root of so much suffering that humans always suffer. Although these 10 things are also the root of afflictions, their intensity is different: deep or shallow, strong or weak. The Dui consciousness dynasty divides them into 2 categories, the 5 dharmas of ignorance and the 5 dharmas of benefit. As for the 5 things, greed, anger, ignorance, arrogance, and doubt, their manifestations are very deep and strong, so they are called dung, slow and difficult to eliminate. On the contrary, the other 5 things, body view, boundary view, their behavior is weaker. So it is called beneficial history. Su means to command; they command people to follow their orders. For the previous 5 things, the practitioner must practice to the level of practice to eliminate them. As for the following 5 items, because of the superficial nature of delusion, practitioners should practice to the state of enlightenment, clearly see the truth and firmly believe in cause and effect, then they can be eliminated. In general, These two things are different in terms of intensity, strength, and slowness, as well as differences in sensitivity. And when eliminating, there is also a difference in the status of practice. That is roughly the difference between view or thought or like that. As for the ceiling or sand, it is different. Because dust and dirt are not the afflictions of arhats. Because arhats have completely eliminated delusions, but they are hindered by the delusions, afflictions, of sentient beings. That means they see the afflictions of sentient beings as much as dust and sand. Therefore, they do not dare to save sentient beings like Bodhisattvas. Thus, the difference between view or thought and dust is like that. 9. Taking the three refuges does not result in being born in an evil realm.
Question. In the sutras it is said, if you take refuge in the Buddha you will not fall into hell, if you take refuge in the Dharma you will not fall into the realm of hungry ghosts, if you take refuge in the Sangha you will not fall into rebirth. After taking refuge, Buddhists will no longer fall into these species, that is, they will not fall into the three paths, and will of course be reborn in a realm of peace and happiness. So, why do Buddhists, after death, invite monks and nuns to recite sutras for rebirth? So is it against the left or not?
Answer. Actually, there is nothing anti-left. In the sutra talking about the three refuges above, it does not imply that people will not fall into depravity after death. If we understand it like that, it is contrary to the meaning of the sutra. The scriptures say it very clearly. To understand the above meaning, we need to clearly understand the meaning of each sentence. Why does taking refuge in Buddha not fall into hell? Taking refuge means returning for refuge, and Buddha means enlightenment and insight. Thus, taking refuge in Buddha means returning to take refuge with a wise enlightened being. Through this sentence, if we only simply understand the superficial appearance, it is not correct. Because, currently there are many people who, after taking refuge in the three jewels, create bad karma such as robbing, killing, etc. They are arrested and locked in prison. So, then we try to ask why they have already taken refuge in the three jewels but they still have to suffer like that? Is that because they only take refuge, but they do not keep the precepts or truly return to Buddha? A person, after taking refuge in the three jewels, only needs to know how to rely on the three jewels of the world, and then try to do good according to the Buddha's teachings, then there will be no prison or imprisonment. That is to say, taking refuge in the superficial sense of form. But still get such benefits. Why should we take refuge in the rational nature? Therefore, when Buddhists take refuge, they must know that taking refuge has two parts, the refuge and the reason for taking refuge. The meaning in the sutra about the three refuges above is not about the refuge but about the reason for refuge. What is the principle of taking refuge? Lie is the physical body, that is, only the clear, aware nature available to each person. Each person only needs to return to rely on clear awareness, then there is no way they will fall into hell. Because hell is a dark place, literally. Figuratively it means our souls are afflicted with afflictions and impurities that cause discomfort. That is the state of falling into hell. Where there is darkness, there is no clarity, or vice versa. As for hungry ghosts, they are hungry ghosts, and due to stinginess, they have that painful result. If a person has truly returned to take refuge in the Dharma, with an egalitarian nature, spreading compassion and love to all living beings, not being stingy and stingy, always helping everyone escape suffering and be happy. If a person has a mind like that, why would he fall into the hungry ghost race? The same goes for animals, a dark and ignorant soul, living without morality, not distinguishing between right and wrong. Good or bad, acting stubbornly, that is the way of life of animals. On the contrary, a person with a clear and pure soul, living according to the truth, without the slightest evil mind, will not fall into the animal or animal world. In short, a Buddhist who has truly taken refuge in the three jewels in both truth and reason, in the true sense of taking refuge, ensures that person in this life will not fall into the three evil paths as mentioned above. In that case, after they die, it doesn't matter whether there is a requiem or not. Because now their life has passed, meaning they have overcome the realm of suffering. If the cause is like that, then the effect must also be like that. The effect cannot be the opposite of the cause. So that requiem is just done according to the usual routine. So, having it is good, but not having it is also okay. Understanding it like that, there is nothing anti-left at all. 10. Chanting sutras to pray for rebirth, is it really requisite or not?
Question: Is chanting prayers for the dead really supernatural?
Answer: to be honest, we cannot answer this question decisively or decisively. Because if you don't see or know, how can you dare to speak decisively? However, according to our understanding, Buddhist or non-Buddhist, it is better to pray for oneself while still alive. What does it mean to pray for requiem while still alive? Because of the two words, requiem, it means the desire to overcome all suffering. But if we only pray for salvation by saying things like that, then it will be impossible for thousands of years to overcome suffering. If we want to overcome suffering, we need to practice. That means we need to do good and avoid evil. If we decide not to do something that is evil and not beneficial to ourselves or others, we decide not to do it. Like Buddhists, after taking refuge and observing the 5 precepts, they are determined to keep them and not violate them. If they do that, their present life is already transcendent. What can they say about the next life? On the contrary, if evil things are always done, how can we avoid suffering? Some people are too greedy and angry, causing tragedies of robbery and murder. Some people, because they are addicted to gambling, drinking alcohol, smoking drugs, and cannot control their bad habits, have committed many crimes and are punished by the law with punishments commensurate with the cause they have committed, such as being beatings, interrogations, imprisonment, etc. So, how can we pray for that person's salvation? It is impossible for one person to eat and another to be full, or for one person to study and the other to be literate. How can there be such a paradox? This is contrary to the law of cause and effect. Likewise, when a sinner has been imprisoned and punished, we cannot pray every day and say, "Please let that person's sins be gone. Please let that person be free from sin." Let's ask if praying like that will make that person's sins go away or not. Or that person must repent for the actions he has taken. And must demonstrate specific actions to let the person responsible for looking after him know that he truly has the heart to improve. Only then will people consider pardoning or forgiving. As for those prayers and supplications, they are only meant to help that sinner be moved, to change his mind, to change evil and good, to reform evil, to transform his mind and actions. It does not have any divine power to save that person from sin. Thus, praying for requiem is just a predestined aid. It all depends on the person involved. Suffering and happiness are decided by the person himself. Understanding the meaning of praying for rebirth like that, Buddhists no longer rely on monks and nuns reciting sutras to pray for requiem. Because in reality, monks and nuns also have to pray for themselves. And when reciting, chant according to what the past taught and now do, but really, no monk or nun dares to say whether it is transcendent or not. Because if you don't see it, you don't dare to talk nonsense. That's the reality. In short, each person must take care of their own practice, never rely on anyone, including Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, because they cannot save us with divine power or reach out to save us from suffering. They only save suffering for sentient beings by teaching through the words collected in the scriptures. If we continue to practice there, then we will save ourselves. And that is the best solution. And it is true to the meaning of praying for rebirth. Otherwise, we will suffer for a long time, going forever in the cycle of endless suffering. We hope everyone should judge for themselves.
Thank you for spending your valuable time on my channel journey to enlightenment. Wishing you a very peaceful and happy day. Don't forget to click like and subscribe to my support channel. See you in the next video.